take my camera with me wherever I go. I'm trying to find my soulmate. I know there's got to be somebody out there somewhere.
Isn't that just so bitchin'?
What's your name?
Dark! I have to rot my life away in a 9-to-5 hellhole to support your lazy, juvenile, delinquent ass.
Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up!
You have got the deepest, blackest eyes I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
Let the love feast begin. Sometimes I feel so old-fashioned. There's got to be somebody out there somewhere who can hold me in their arms and tell me everything's going to be okay.
Strand Releasing presents the 4K remastered movie Nowhere by Gregg Araki, director of Mysterious Skin and The Doom Generation.
LA is like nowhere. Everybody who lives here is lost.
Do you know what today is? It's Armageddon Day, the day the world's supposed to end.
Peter. Well, aren't you gonna?
Life is so complicated.
James Duvall, Christina Applegate, Nathan Bexton, Rachel True, Jason Simmons, Kathleen Robertson, Jeremy Jordan, Heather Graham, Tracy Lords, and John Ritter.
It's been a gnarly day.
Nowhere.
But does that make you feel so much better?
What if?
And welcome to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your host. Now, on today's episode, we're going to go to the hole and get some Fruit Loops or something. And we're also going to go to Juju Fruit's party, which apparently is a rager, everybody. But with all that being said, though, today, on this day, it's Armageddon Day, everybody. I decided I'm going to just close out. It's August now, I think. So we're in almost into September, but whatever. I decided we're going to close this out by doing the ending of the Teen Apocalypse trilogy from Mr. Gregg Araki, and we're covering Nowhere from 1997 today. However, I needed to bring a guest on with me, okay? You heard my friend Bobby last week, we talked about the Doom Generation, but I wanted to bring, and he's a huge fan, and all that, but I wanted to bring someone on this show, or on this episode, that I actually just found out, just saw this movie not too long ago, but has a history with Mr. Araki himself, and his films, and he's also a returning guest, too. You may have heard him back when we did Faster Pussycat Kill Kill last year, but he was also on the Lady Killers pod for quite some time. And he shows up different places. You can go read his writings on the internet, the interwebs. But welcome back to my show, Rocco T. Thompson. Hello, Rocco. How are you doing?
Hello, thank you for having me back.
Of
I'm really
course.
excited to talk about this queer, fucked up, wonderful movie.
I agree very much so, because as gays doing gay things, listen, down for it. And, we may or may not have had some weird tech issues beforehand, man, but it's all good, y'all. I'm just...
it's
playing.
the apocalypse day. It's the vibes.
It really
They're off.
is. It really is. I was just like, yes, I'm recording Rocco. It's fine. But whatever, the things we do for podcasting. But what I want to know from you though, Rocco, okay, so it's not like I didn't think that you had watched these movies before or any of that kind of stuff, but more so I'm kind of, and also you're just a cinephile person, you like movies. But I guess what my wonder for you is that when did you first get started with these movies and Gregg Araki's films? And I guess I guess a abridged version, how did you come across Nowhere, and why did you never really see it before until recently? I guess I would like to know that, because that's what's interesting to me about it. But yeah, I want to hear from you though.
Yeah, I think any queer person growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s knew about Gregg Araki, of course. I had heard about the Doom generation as long as I can remember, really. And then Nowhere was one that kind of was like unavailable for a really long time, hard to see. And, this Criterion box set that came out with the Teen Apocalypse trilogy, including Totally Fucked Up and the other two, is the first time it's been widely available in quite a while. But the Doom generation was on my watch list forever, forever, forever. I never quite got around to it for whatever reason. I have no idea. And then a couple years ago, I did finally watch it for the first time. And although I think I really would have vibed with these movies back when I was a younger person, sort of the age bracket that is presented in them, they are actually, I regret the time I've spent not watching them, but now that they're in my life, it does feel right because I'm sort of rediscovering in this era that we're current living in, the anti-assimilationist fuck you attitude that these movies have. Like, I am kind of like getting that back, and it's kind of aligning with what I'm feeling, the angst again. So, but I will say that I did see Mysterious Skin very early. Primarily my writing is about horror movies, and that's always listed as one of the most difficult to watch movies of its era, and it really is. But I saw that pretty early. I did see that in my teenage years, and that stuck with me for a really long time. I also was never really much of a stoner, but I did get into Smiley Face, which is kind of a masterpiece. I don't like stoner movies, but Anna Faris in that and the Araki-ness of it, it's just like fantastic. And I would, pull out my bowl from the gutter outside of my window and smoke up and watch Smiley Face in high school. But yeah, I was never much of a stoner, but like that was like my most stoner era, my most stoner behavior.
Yeah, no, totally. That's very fair. I just like that image of you doing that. Like, that's very funny to me.
I would do that, and I would also do call back to our last episode together, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. Those were the two that I would watch.
Attaboy. I like that. But Mom, Dad, I'm gay. Are you surprised? Stupid.
Exactly.
Anyway, but yeah, so I love that. But yeah, no, I totally understand that. And I think I might have talked about it last week. I don't remember what even happened yesterday. But in this situation though, yeah, I completely get that because I definitely wish I had seen these movies earlier and been able to see them again. But I also just really, it's just cool to now be able to see them, and have them readily available, and also just like evidenced by my show, I guess. I kind of like the like stupid and camp and like that kind of stuff, and this movie's chock full of that, and Gregg Araki's any of his films a lot of the time are chock full of that, and I gotta stand, right?
But it is interesting because I'm used to like teen movies, quote unquote teen movies, sort of like as you watch them you're kind of like, oh, this doesn't really appeal to me anymore, or like
you grow out of stuff.
You grow out of stuff. The attitude is a little like doesn't align with where you're at now. But Gregg Araki, as campy and silly as this movie is, he's still really refined as a filmmaker, refined in his references, refined in what he's doing and trying to say. And I think that these movies, even Nowhere, which like is the most out there of the three, I don't know, it still has a lot to it. You can still really connect with that angst that these young people are feeling in a way that feels it resonates beyond just being a youth thing.
That's true. And I also just like that this is also a movie that it kind of gives you exactly what it's saying it is, where it says it's a 90210 episode on acid, and I appreciate that, and that's completely what this movie is. But yeah, and we could talk all about what's kind of in here and what maybe Gregg is trying to say, or whatever we think that is trying to be said here, I guess. But I guess with all that being said, our little histories about it, let's go into some of these figures of the movie and just see that, I guess. And then we'll also have to talk about this fabulous cast too, because
oh my god,
the cast is so good, y'all.
Maybe
so
when I put this on and I just was seeing these faces pop up, these old school television faces especially.
Oh my god,
I was like,
we'll talk about that
the craziest cast ever assembled? Like, they're so stacked, and then there's this.
It's so weird, man. It's crazy. Yeah. But Nowhere came out actually May 9th of 1997, and then was released in France, because this is a co-production, I guess, between the US and France. September 17th, 1997 is is when it came out in France, and this is a brisk 78 minutes. I love a good short movie sometimes, even to Rocco's disdain of that, but it's fine.
No, listen, there's too much to this movie. It's almost too much to take in. So like the 78 minutes feels
Works.
really perfect. Yes.
You're just like, this works. It doesn't need to be 3 hours, I promise.
Yes.
Even though he's like, Jesse, you need to watch these long ass Lars von Trier films, and I'm just
listen, sometimes 3 hours can go by in a blink, I promise you.
That's true. The we have to shout out Fine Line Features, which was, I think, in Warner Brothers somewhere. I think of them as the gay one. Like Fine Line Features did some of those gay movies for Warner Brothers, so the ones that like, you know, kind of got like noticed. So that was kind of fun. Yeah, good old Fine Line Features. And then I don't know how to do anything French, but Haute et Court was apparently the place that distributed, which is why I think you could get the Blu-ray in France for a while.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I think that's what it was. That was like the video release that happened, and then we have now the wonderful Criterion Collection. But yeah, there's that. I also don't know what the fuck this budget is either, because there's no information about it. Like, if you had to guess, Rocco, like, what do you think the budget of this movie was, girl?
So I'm not good with numbers, and then we're talking
like
about
seeing.
Yeah, and then and seeing. But then we're talking about inflation, and like I have no fucking idea what like an expensive movie looks like.
Sure.
Looks like. I know mid-budget movies no longer exist. And Gregg Araki was always on the lower budget end. So and that commentary, the delightful Criterion commentary,
That's
which is
so good.
A party in and of itself.
It really is, man.
It's such a hoot. But they talked about how cheap everything was. So
yeah,
this movie looks fantastic. Looks like $1 million, but it was definitely on the cheaper end.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if like the Doom generation, I think was 800,000 or something like that. I mean, like this is at least, if that, if not probably less, if because, you know, using the same thing. They didn't really have like, I don't think they had studio space. Like, it's not like they had a studio that was doing some of these things. I think some of it was literally like photo sets and shit like that.
No,
and
that's, I mean? Yeah, and he uses a lot of locations around LA. Talks about how a lot of the rooms are just walls that are painted.
So it's not like you have studio space at all.
Yeah. But I did wonder about this cast. You know, you have a lot of people on the cusp of becoming really big, like Ryan Phillippe, Heather Graham, but also you have like Christina Applegate, who I think had to have been a bit costly from having been on Married with Children and Adventures in Babysitting. Is that her movie? Yeah.
No, that's Elizabeth Shue.
No, fuck. Well, don't tell mom the babysitter's dead.
You go. There you go.
The babysitter.
Kind of similar, universe. Like a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, don't do Stephen Herrick like that, okay, man? Listen, you comparing him to Chris Columbus. Crazy. Anyway, yeah, but no, that's totally fair. Opening weekend ranking grosses came out 15, so it was like at the bottom, I think, with about $27,000, and it only made $198,000 like worldwide. I don't even know how that is, or if this is like rescreenings of it or anything like that. I don't really know, but like, yeah, it makes enough sense. So I mean, it had to have been like shoestringing a prayer with some of the things that they did with this movie.
Yeah.
For sure. There's no critic consensus for this movie, but we do have a 50% from critics with 14 reviews. So some of these people are haters.
How honestly. Dare they?
I know. And then 76% from the audiences, because the girls who know, honestly.
But not enough of the girls, to be honest.
Not like enough of the girls.
76. Yikes.
You're like, girl, you gotta go on, Rotten Tomatoes, okay? And then it's a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So there's that.
Which is good.
It is good. Yeah, it makes enough sense. And I think, I have a little thesis statement here of this episode. And we're just exploring Nowhere as kind of this like weird, surreal, hyper stylized like capsule of just what it was. Gen X, late 90s is going on here. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, to be honest. So
beautiful.
There's that. Yeah, that's our thesis statement of this damn episode. Let's get into a little bit, because I don't have like a ton of production history or anything, because it does not exist. So we're more so going to be talking about, some of the themes that are explored in here, what we think of some of these characters and all that. But let's start with our cast and our crew. Of course, as we've already stated, this was written, directed, and edited by Gregg Araki. He has done all these movies, including the totally fucked up Doom Generation Nowhere trilogy that they did, but also like he did Splendor, Mysterious Skin, he did Now Apocalypse, and he's also been directing a lot of TV as well. 13 Reasons Why, Fry, Dahmer, things like that. So, he's still working, man, and good for him, if anything.
Honestly, a bit of a shame, though. Like, it kind of reminds me of, how John Waters has always been trying to still get movies made.
Yeah.
And he's at an age where he's like, I could make a movie for a couple $1,000s, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm also yeah.
So Gregg Araki, it's like, I wish he does have a movie in
I think they've shot it
post-production.
It's post-production now, yeah.
So I'd like him to be able to make more movies because it's a pretty small filmography. I did polish it off once I finished this box set earlier in the year. And you mentioned Splendor. I just have to say, what a great little movie that is.
Yeah. And I think you might be able to watch on Tubi every so often. Like, it shows up there sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't watched that one yet, but I do want to. And
Kathleen Robertson really should have been somebody.
God, right? I agree.
She is fucking radiant in that movie. And also, it was weird to watch it because, this is my millennial damage. I only knew her from like fucking Scary Movie 2.
Yes. Oh God, yes, she is in that movie. Yeah, I mentioned that. But anyway, so there's that. There's no composer to this movie, which I normally like to point out. Well, but there wasn't, because it's a lot of just vibes, man. Just shoegaze vibes. Honestly, we have Arturo Smith, who is our DP cinematographer dude. He did Psycho Beach Party, and if you watch both these movies together, you can understand that they do look a tad bit similar. This just is a little different, obviously, but those colors, the way he shoots it, I could definitely see it for sure. And then back to Kathleen Robertson, because she's also in that movie as a bitch in a wheelchair. And I'm not kidding. She is. Anyway, but I did want to mention the costumes and the hair, because this movie is crazy and looks great. And in those regards, looks great, and like the makeup and all that. So Sarah Slotnick, who did Alpha Dog in the 2000s and did the movie Wicked, not the one with the green and the pink one, but the 1998 movie with Julia Stiles. I have no idea what it's about.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either.
Not either. Who knows? But it's like, the video cover looks like her just looking fierce. So I'm interested, but it's probably gonna be bad though.
Definitely.
Fair enough. And then our makeup artists, we have Jason Rail, who is like our, I think, hair and makeup dude kind of person. Hey, Jason, you follow my show on Instagram. Let's talk in our DMs or something. I don't know. And he's also like best friends with Parker Posey, which honestly, like, girl, I would do that too. Are you kidding me? Like, amazing. Shout out Emmy nominee. Matt Hill and Michael Burnett were like the people who also did some of the makeup, maybe some of the special effects makeup too, because Jason did like the House of Yes and also Clock Watchers as makeup dude, and then a lot of Araki movies, like 3 of them. But then I think it was Michael Burnett. He was the one who was in Lost Highway, and he did Forsaken from J.D. Cardone. And he actually had like other stuff, like the Matt Hill guy. He only ever worked on this, so literally just somebody that.
But we thank all of them for making Nathan Bexton the most beautiful 90s heartthrob who ever existed in this.
Jesus Christ, man. Oh my God. Like
soft boy excellence.
Yeah, soft boy excellence. Absolutely. Yeah, amazing. And then Patty Podesta, also the she is, what is she? She is the production designer of this movie. So she made these places look the way they did, and brought all the vibes with that. She is actually not most notably, but she is somebody right now who has already done the movie, but she is the production designer for both the Black Phone movies. So
wow, great.
Her now today. And a couple other things. So she was having that new movie come out, next year or like end of this year? Something like that.
Yeah, pretty soon, I think.
Yeah. But she also was a part of that, I think, which is kind of cool. Yeah, let's get into our cast. We have our main characters. There's kind of like, I don't know, 2 of them, 3 of them, like maybe really 2 of them. I would say 3. Really, it's James Duvall, Rachel True, and like Nathan Bexton kind of sort of is in there. And then you have kind of the merry band of weirdos that Gregg just likes to have in his movies. So yeah, James Duvall, we know him as Frank the Bunny, of course, but he was also in like Independence Day and Go and stuff like that. So he's apparently also very nice.
May, Lucky McKee's May, in a very
he gets
scene.
killed. He gets spoiler alert, he gets killed by May. And he has a really cool Frankenstein tattoo, dude, man,
and really horrible hair.
Really horrible, like, oh my God, Liberty Spikes from back in the day, bro. I mean, listen, do what you gotta do, but I was like, why'd you make him look like this? what's happening. Amazing. And I mentioned last week, but this week I'll mention it too, is that after seeing these movies and stuff, and also watching some of Sofia Coppola's stuff, I literally already said it, but like, it's so funny to just see that like James Duvall is the Kirsten Dunst to like Sophia's like, Gregg. Like, he really is, like, he's kind of the muse.
Yeah.
Shout out whoever wrote the article. I was looking it up earlier today. Maybe I'll link you if I remember. But they mentioned him. They mentioned Dark in this movie, James. They mentioned him as kind of like a misery twink or something. And I was like, you know what? That's fair.
I always think of him as like Queerdo outsider Keanu Reeves.
Oh, 100% too. All right. I like that moniker as well. That works for me too. Yeah, we have so him, Rachel True, who is Mel in this movie. She is, of course, from like Half Baked, speaking of Spooner movies, and also The Craft, The Embrace of the Vampire as well, which she worked with Jordan Ladd on, which is kind of fun.
The way she looks in this movie is unreal.
Is unreal. Like, how... Oh my God, beautiful.
The 4K restoration, the texture of her skin, she's just the most beautiful person that's ever been on film.
Literally. And you know what, girl? I appreciate this because she also said, like, damn it, I should have gotten naked for this movie. That's number one.
She
which
did.
I appreciate it, right? She was like, and you know what? I was like, good for you, girl. I was like, if I looked like that when I was like 28, how old you are, like, because she was like the oldest on set, technically. It's like, but yeah, she still looks great. Like, and she's just like, damn it, why did I do that?
And I love that she also said she misses her crooked teeth.
She misses her crooked teeth.
Because she didn't need to fix anything. She's fucking perfect in this.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Yes, she is super perfect in this. Oh my gosh. Nathan Bexton, of course, he is from like the In Crowd and Go. Do you ever watch the In Crowd from the 2000s?
No, I did not.
You need to check that out. It's like a weird, bad soap opera, and I think you can appreciate it, hopefully. I don't know. But yeah, he's from that. He does not have whatever that thing is to have two different eye colors. That is not a genetic feature of his.
Heterochromia, is it?
Heterochromia, yes.
Yeah, heterochromia. Like David Bowie and like Elizabeth Berkley.
Exactly. Yes. And it was inspired by Bowie. Yes. Gregg literally did say that. So it makes enough sense. Also, not a frequenter, but he at least did go to the Trader Joe's in LA that my friend works at. Shout out Scott from Movies That Made Us Gay. Because he definitely talked about how both him and I think, or no, Jimmy was there. That's what it was, is that Jimmy came into that Trader Joe's and then he had a friend with him and his friend just so happened to be Nathan Bexton.
Oh my God. I would fall in love with that man even today. I don't even know what he's looking like, but I don't care.
I don't know.
Is the dream.
According to on the commentary that they did, he is like built like a linebacker. And to be honest, that's right up your alley too, man.
Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I like all flavors, all types. We can go from soft boy beauty to linebacker, middle age, and back again.
Listen, I mean, there you go. We need to have options, man. Okay. Anyway, yes. And then Kathleen Robertson, who at this point would have been on 90210. Some of those like fun 90210 like title sequences because she's in them, and I was just like, "Oh, you're serving, girl. I like it."
Was she like a main character on 90210? Because
I'm
not super familiar.
She kind of was at some point.
Okay.
When they got like out of high school and stuff, because she is in the title sequence, like with Tiffany Amber Thiessen when she gets added and all that stuff. So I mean, I assume that she's in there somewhere enough to be in the title sequence. Makes enough sense. Yeah. Like and then Splendor, like you said, she's radiant in it, and she's also the co-lead of that movie along with Matt Kiesler and Jonathan Scheck. So
oh God, it's so good. I need a boutique Blu-ray to pick that one up.
I do too.
It's so good. I've described it as like design like a Lubitsch movie, like designed for living for the Gap generation.
But like honestly though, that's probably what it is.
It literally is.
I think Gregg has said that before, where he was like, Splendor is this.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe not an original thought, but somebody needs to pick it up just because I don't know. It's a little less. It's less acerbic. Acerbic, is that the word?
That's like sarcastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's less acerbic than all of his other movies, but it's really special, and it deserves a bit more attention than it's gotten because it's one I never hear about in all of his filmography.
Yeah, totally. And people want to talk about Challengers, and it's like, well, you can also watch Splendor too. Like, come on,
A good double feature, honestly.
Oh, it could be. Yeah. And then who are some of the other girl? We could go through this cast because of just how stacked it is.
Yeah.
And we might even just do that because that's a big part of this movie. You can kind of break it into two camps. You have the other people who are in this movie as well, which we'll talk about. And then you just have the random just mix of different old TV stars that show up.
Yeah.
And I think that's also very intentional because, as we were hinting a little bit earlier, talking about earlier, is that these movies were definitely made for like the freaks, the weirdos, all this. And as a result of that, they're made for people who are also like actively on drugs. I mean, very much like was made for that in mind. Like, how could you not? And I think that's why he has those like random pops of people where it's just like, it adds to the dream logic. And I think I mentioned that last week too, but like, because Doom Generation does that as well. But it is interesting to just like, yeah, that's exactly why that's happening. So, I think that's
speaking of the TV actors, the man understands cameos in a way that is so great because you're really giving people you're using actors sparingly but giving them something to play off of and a way to play with their image. And then just also the TV thing of this, obviously he describes this as 90210 on acid, but I was thinking about this, how interesting it is to come up in a time like the internet was fairly new when all culture is mediated through television back at this point. So that's an intrinsic part of how these films understand the world and how gay life and queer life is different than what is being portrayed on TV in the mainstream. Because, there's even a great line in Totally Fucked Up where I think it might be James Duvall's character talks about how even like he hates Barbra Streisand, like he hates even mainstream gay culture. So these films are sort of an attempt to like nod to that TV landscape that all these characters grew up on with all of these famous people, Eve Plum, Charlotte Rae, things like that.
Julie from The Love Boat.
While also queering it and trying to turn it into something different and say like mainstream culture doesn't represent us.
Totally. That makes enough sense. And so you have those folks, but some of these other people who are here, Debbie Mazar shows up for a fun thing. And also,
with her.
And yes, with her.
Yes, with her, the French Connection. The French Connection, we were talking about Exorcist before this. So this is now wait, who the fuck?
This is Chiara Mastriani, who, if you don't know, that is Catherine Deneuve's like daughter. So
and Marcello Mastriani,
that guy too,
which is crazy. Very, very crazy to see her turn up here. And I mean, I guess this was her first English language movie, and she was very nervous. But I don't know why. She's just having a blast with fucking Debbie Mazar. You can't go wrong just hanging out with Debbie.
Amazing, yes. Some of the other people too. So you have in early roles for them. You have Mina Savari. This is her first movie ever. They probably shot this getting her off of one of the like TV shows she did, and then throwing her in here. Joshua Gibran Mayweather, who plays the little brother to Mal, Zero. He had just been in Camp Nowhere, which I have covered on the show before. He's probably like one of the kids of color in there, obviously, because there's not many of them in there. But there's that. And then, some of these other people like Christina Applegate, like you said, coming off of Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead and from years ago. But then even before that, obviously Married with Children, which it was still, I think, happening. Like either it had already finished by the time that she was on here, or I think she might have still actively been on there. I don't remember exactly. But it's definitely like being able to bring people who could get, also maybe didn't get the chance to play these kinds of characters because she didn't for a while.
Playing against type as Dingbat. But I told her to love that extra textural thing too as well, that she is part of the TV landscape currently, and she's in this movie, which is like so drawing from TV. So that's kind of cool.
It is really cool. And then like Jason Simmons, who was on Baywatch at the time, like Guillermo Diaz, which I think he did this. I think he probably did this and Party Girl around the same time.
Yes, Party Girl's Guillermo Diaz.
Oh my God, so good. But it was probably maybe depending on when they shot it in 95, because I think this movie was shot in 95, weirdly enough. But like in that situation though, like how could it have been like when did they shoot Party Girl, like in the winter or in like the other part of the series, the winter, I guess. Because they did this in the summer for like a month, so it would have had to been before or after it, if anything. So anyway, but yeah,
I feel like both those movies take place in the same universe, though.
They probably do, to be honest with you. I mean, I could see it. Just not enough lizards in a Party Girl, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean Parker Posey drifts between, she's in Doom Generation, so
she is, yeah. I also appreciate some of the other people in here too. Like, of course, we talked about Ryan Phillippe and Heather Graham. Same year this comes out, she's also Roller Girl, and is that PTA or who is that? Oh my God.
Paul Thomas Anderson. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's who it, because I get him because of the Andersons. I'm like, wait, no, it's not a Wes Anderson movie, right?
Oh, that's the one you get confused. I get confused with, what is it? A Resident Evil guy.
The one who has 3 names.
Yeah. What is his name? Sorry.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Now I say I get confused, but now I don't even remember. Paul W.S. Anderson. So Paul Thomas Anderson and Paul W.S. Anderson
are a lot, man.
Easily confused.
Very much so, man. Very much so.
One is married to Mila Jovovich and one is married to Maya Rudolph. So.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's how we can break it up, if anything. I also appreciate some of the other actors like David Leisure. For those who may not know, he is the soccer coach in 10 Things I Hate About You. But he was also Joe Azuzu. So like he did Azuzu commercials back in the 90s. And so that's just also fun. He's also just been in other things too, but it's cool. I also do like the use of Devin Odessa and Stacey Keenan in this as What and Ever. Devin Odessa obviously coming off of doing My So-Called Life, and then Stacey Keenan being on Step by Step, I think it was, or something. I'm bad at stuff. I don't remember who everyone
You're better than me. See, I don't know TV as well as you. So
yeah, where I'm kind of like, oh, wait a minute, I think it's this.
You can say it and I would believe it.
I know Step by Step is the one with Suzanne Summers. I know that.
Yes, much. I know that.
I was like, at least we have that, man. At least. But no, this and I think all of it just came out of like Gregg just asking people and them just saying, yeah, I'll do it. Why not? Like, that's cool.
Denise Richards cameo, fantastic.
Right.
And then Tracy Lord, Shannon Doherty, Rose McGowan, and one of the most iconic scenes, honestly.
Oh my God, so good. Oh God. And then even like just like weird staples, like they had like the Brewer twins at the end. They're surfing ski.
God.
I know they were like the I guess if anything, like they were the male model version of the Daniels back in the 90s for anybody who doesn't know.
Yes, they're so hot. And it can't be stated enough that Gregg Araki has excellent taste in men.
He does.
Like he makes everyone look like the most beautiful thing that ever existed on Earth. And
I would agree.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then also like I'm always a little disappointed. I say always, I've only seen this a couple times, but like I'm always like, that's Juji Fruit. I want a bigger character. But like even that is Gibby Haynes, who is the lead singer of Butthole Surfers.
Yes.
So that doesn't mean anything to me because I'm not a music person, but I know Butthole Surfers. And everybody is somebody in this movie, which feels really special.
Yeah, it does for sure. And I think also like he's good at being able to cast like diversity too, because he also is diverse, like he is an Asian man, in case anybody didn't know that. But there's that. I do take weird issue because I noticed this. I still love this movie a lot, but like at the whole, like what the hell is this like weird blackface going on in like the back?
Yeah, I just noticed that this time too. I think it's just a futuristic thing, or
sure.
It's supposed to be. I don't think.
I looked at that and so I was like, what in the hell is this? But okay, it's in the not so distant future, like we said. So.
I mean, even things like, not to go back to another movie, but like like Doom Generation, like the Asian stuff is semi-acceptable because he himself is Asian,
yeah.
But by the same token, it is
regressive,
offensive, and purposely offensive. But I think that's what's important about these movies too, is like, gay purity politics do not exist in this. It's like,
oh my God, yes. And I think that's exactly, go ahead, sorry.
No, you keep going.
I was gonna say that's the thing is that like not that I just want to trivialize it, but it really is like he is like he worships at the altar of John Waters, obviously. Like
nothing has to be palatable or nice or inoffensive. It's all kind of there.
Yeah.
I think it's Wild Dark's dialogue, especially towards Lucifer, like the use of clam and like sort of the gendered nasty dialogue he has towards her is funny, but it's also like yeesh. Misogynistic, but that's kind of outside the worldview of what these movies are. Like they're meant to push your buttons while also be having a really good time with them. So.
I agree. Yeah, totally. Very much so. So I guess like talking about that cast, so we kind of moved into that. Before we go into like any sort of like plot breakdown or like character breakdowns or anything like that, I want to hear from you, Rocco, because I'm not trying to super put you on the spot, but I know in some of my movies before I've talked about new queer cinema and what I think it is and that kind of stuff. But what I want to know from you, like as a critic and as somebody who has different opinions than me, how would you kind of talk about like what is new queer cinema? What were the qualities of these types of movies that would be considered that? And like, where is Gregg Araki's place in that before I guess we move into anything else?
Yeah. So I'm sure you've said, but new queer cinema was coined by B. Ruby Rich, who was writing about these films that were coming out in the early to mid 90s that sort of marked a division between like what old, obviously, queer cinema was and this new sort of in your face, proudly queer version. And I've said previously already that it was anti-assimilationist after as a reaction, especially to Reaganism, sort of the callousness of, what Reagan did with the AIDS crisis in the 1980s. We had gay liberation in the late 60s, early 70s, and the desire was just to like sort of fit in a bit more with society, have our rights, be part of the American milieu of what like all American society was. But then the 80s came, the AIDS crisis came, and we sort of learned, we don't mean anything to these people. They're never going to respect us, and they don't care if we fucking die.
Right.
So new queer cinema is a reaction to that, sort of saying, you know what? I am not going to play respectability politics. I am not going to be a gay person that makes myself more palatable for the broader culture. We have our own culture and we can, express ourselves however we want. So it's a pretty cynical cinematic movement. It's also not interested in realism necessarily. Totally Fucked Up is an interesting movie because it's a bit more of a verite style of storytelling, especially for Gregg Araki.
Right.
But it's very rooted in like the aesthetics of cinema and exaggeration.
Right.
You also have filmmakers like Darren Stein. Is it Darren Stein? Yeah. Darren Stein in this. I would
say I'm Todd Haynes.
Yes, Todd Haynes. Todd Haynes. And it's a lot of playing with like the language of cinema. There's also a great Canadian documentary called Forbidden Love, The Unashamed Stories of Lesbian Lives. Directed by Lynn Fernie and Erlen Weissman, which is a big part of this. I think actually on the disc there may be a commentary or Q&A with B. Ruby Rich. That movie and Todd Haynes especially are playing with like, old school sort of noir and melodrama and things like that. And you can see that playing into Gregg Araki as well, like sort of playing with, stylized cinema aesthetics through a queer lens. And then also overgirding that or undergirding that outside of the queerness of it is the idea that we were approaching a new millennium and things were feeling really scary. And, as Dark says in this movie, he knows he's part of the generation that's going to see the end of the world, like one of the last generations. So I just think there's an anxiety to these movies and in just 90s cinema in general, but it's sort of distilled down into, so that sort of millennial anxiety is really distilled down into its purest, most potent essence in these movies, because not only do you have the anxiety of being queer in a society that hates you, but you're living in the end times.
Yeah, totally. And I think, we'll talk about that near the end, I'm sure, about like what this movie even is and like why it still resonates. But yeah, I can agree with that. And I think like that's the whole thing about these movies in general, and especially this one, is that it is very much like queer as in fuck you type of like filmography, like where it's not about like you said, respectability politics. It's not about like trying to be palatable to anybody. It's like, no, we're gonna do our own thing, and that's what we're doing. And yeah, and that, yeah, it's like not the same thing as Dogma 95, obviously, but it's more so just like, no, this is very much like we're gonna have a certain style. We have to like, we generally have these like sometimes similar like themes that are in the movies that these directors are doing, but I don't know, it's just it's an interesting little movement to be a part of, though.
Yeah, and the stylization thing is, 90210 is like the template for heterosexual teenagers in this era. So it's saying, you know what, we're gonna have our own 90210, which is as queer and BDSM coded and full of weird shit as possible.
Yeah, totally.
And also, I would say, you may agree with this, you may not, but as a gay person who was coming of age more in the 2000s, it felt like we were suddenly in a bit of a bright period. Like, oh, we had our first black president be elected.
Yeah.
2015, gay marriage was legalized. So movies like this sort of felt like not part of the texture of what we were living through anymore.
Right.
But now, as we saw, that relative calm of that moment we've had a major backlash. Yeah. So I think that's why this box set coming out at this time was perfect, because it's kind of like, oh, fuck, we're like back in this sort of mindset where like Gen Zers are able to rediscover these movies and be like, oh, I'm seeing something in this. I'm living through doomsday yet again,
Right, exactly. And yeah, totally. I think that's kind of an interesting way of encompassing what all this is too. Like, there's that MTV like influence as well. Like they missed an opportunity to pick up the little TV show that is pretty much nowhere on TV.
Yes.
And they could have done that, but
sorry, my dog is, you keep going. My dog is, I need to get her. I need to fill her water bowl or she won't stop.
Okay, you're fine. But yeah, no, I think it's really cool to like, have this sort of MTV like generation stuff going on, like that influence coming in. I also think too, there was this sort of like, we're going back to grunge and going back to punk in the 90s, especially. Yeah. So we're going back to punk and we're going back to grunge in the 90s. Right. And so in that situation, like this then just, I don't know, like Gregg has always kind of been in that punk scene from what I understand. And that's where a lot of his influences are coming from with what he's putting out on his, his movies he's doing. And that he isn't really all that. He's interested in showing you like what chaos is, sexuality, things that he thinks are important to show. He's also not really for any sort of like he's not into linear storytelling either. Any of his movies will kind of show you that, especially Mysterious Skin. And also I would argue, not argue, but like White Bird in a Blizzard. I also think like, that has it too. So, I don't know. And then also Smiley Face just makes no sense because it's not supposed to. So of course it is. So if you had to like explain maybe to somebody who's never seen this movie, Rocco, however you want to maybe elevator pitch it, what is Nowhere about, I guess, if you had to kind of break it down?
I mean, it's just, there's no better description than what he says, which is 90210 on acid. But if I was going to describe it, I would just say sort of like a pansexual odyssey to a party on possibly the last day of human existence. Yeah.
Yeah. Throw in some candy colors and some really cool songs, and that's what you have Nowhere as.
Yeah. We talk about movies as vibes, and this is the ultimate vibe. Like, it's just unlike anything else, and it definitely has that style in fashion and everything of like party girl. The language is like, it's like Clueless on uppers, what Amy Heckerling wrote for that, but it's like taken to such an extreme that it's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah. And also having like, talking about some of the themes in the movie too, it's like having a movie, specifically, I guess all three of the Teen Apocalypse trilogy movies, but two of them especially, where you do have this kind of pansexual relationship happening, and whether or not in both examples you know, who's actually into this and who isn't, because in a way, Jordan is like just as enough of a puppy dog where, you know, Amy's doing everything, right? Whereas with Dark and Mel, I mean, they're great together, but also it's like they want two different things, you know? And that's what's kind of interesting too. But
yeah, and I think this movie is ultimately, it's funny that it's the last of them. And I think it kind of like brings the whole 1990s teen movie trend to its climax, because this
in a
is
way,
the most. It's just the most.
it is.
There's no other way to say it. But it is more. It's still devastating in certain ways, but it's much more positive than Doom Generation. Doom Generation, of course, is horrific at where it ends up, but Nowhere is kind of like as sad as Dark's desire for permanent connectedness is. The movie is just kind of about like, we don't have that much time here. Fuck who you want and enjoy, you know, who you're spending time with ultimately, you know, and that's it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can definitely
love
see
as
that.
much as you can until you're too old and nobody wants to touch you, as True says.
As Rachel True, as True as Mel says. Yeah, totally. No, that's very true. Like, yeah, that's exactly how it is, you know. I guess like if I had to ask you, like, you know, who out of this cast, or like who of these characters do you kind of connect with quite a bit, and like, you know, who's your favorite, I guess, if I had to ask the question?
I mean, I hate to say that I'm a dark, but I kind of am a dark, where I'm like, you know,
in a Hello Kitty outfit, no less.
Yes. I'm pretty moody, and like you may not be able to tell, but like, you know, my partner, it drives him crazy because I can be very cynical and sad and like worried about the state of things, and like his desire to just believe in true love and somebody who is going to be with only him. And I understand that. I understand the man.
Yeah.
But I also really love, who else do I love in this? I just want to look at the list again because I can't. But yeah, who do you relate to most?
I think I relate, like, maybe it's because he's just so, I love the way he acts in a way. I really get with like Cowboy, like, honestly, Guillermo Diaz. Because I'm also like a bit of a sad boy, and you know, like I am somebody who I just want I don't know, I want my boyfriend to get off of heroin, you know, and he has to get himself clean. Like, yeah, I don't know, like I think that for me, like there is such a tenderness to Cowboy, and you know, if anything, his story kind of ends in a bad way, because then he's like, you know, oh no, like my boyfriend like stuck his head in the oven, like, you know, that kind of a thing. But I don't know. I love him though. Like he's just like, yeah, he's
Jeremy Jordan as Bart, also hot as hell in this movie.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Yes. Yeah. And then also in a way, I really like Dingbat as a character. Yes. And I love her because she's just kind of like on the outskirts, and she's like the it's like she's the poser of the group, which is just funny to me. Like she's the try hard. And but you know, I like her too. Like,
it's also it's funny to watch it because Jordan Ladd, Death Proof's Jordan Ladd, which we did not mention.
Yes.
She kind of, in my memory, is she's great, but she's like one of the least interesting characters. It kind of feels like, you know, you kind of remember Egg, you remember Dingbat, but she kind of has one of the biggest arcs in the movie with that crazy boyfriend of hers.
Yes, Elvis.
Yeah.
Love. And then also like, yeah, and it's also interesting because then people have to like be reminded that like, oh yeah, Jordan Ladd and Ryan Phillippe are supposed to be like twins in this movie. And it's like, oh yeah, no, that does make sense if you look at them.
There's something about watching Ryan Phillippe and Heather Graham, because their seeds are so cut off from everyone else. It feels like a different movie completely. Just looking back at it with hindsight, because they're so big as stars. Like, I actually think when I first watched this, I was like, oh, that's from this movie, because I had remembered the scene of him eating her out with the chocolate.
Yes.
I'd seen it somewhere else. But it is funny that you have to be reminded that they're twins, because it just does not seem to have anything to do with anything.
It doesn't, no. Like they both have the same hair color, kind of. Like they both are very horny at any given moment. And who knows? Like, yeah, no, it's very interesting. But yeah, I do think, like, going back to the themes of this movie and all this, like, yeah, films in this sort of oeuvre and new queer cinema in general, like being able to just introduce things like how being trans is like a perfectly normal thing, and, you know, just people, right? And being able to show like what bisexuality and also pansexuality are normalizing in these like movies, and, you know, obviously not at the time, maybe in, you know, particular places in America, but, you know, making it just so that it's like, hey, it's okay to not just be heterosexual, you know, it's not just to be this kind of cookie cutter thing.
It's interesting to watch movies like this. I just saw, this is completely different, but I just, for the umpteenth time, saw David Cronenberg's Crash on 35 millimeter. And it's kind of funny watching these two so close together, because that movie's a lot about like sex removed from any gender at all.
Right.
Everybody's getting with everybody in there. And that's kind of what Gregg Araki feels like as well. It feels like anybody could be fucking anybody at any time. And even he, I don't know how he defines his own sexuality, but I think queer, he's mostly gay, but he's queer. But he did date Kathleen Robertson for a while. So
like he's been with women, and he's very much like, I've been with women too, but like right now I have a boyfriend.
Oh,
I've been with a trans person before.
I thought you were saying you'd been with women. So.
No. The closest I've been was, like, guess technically a trans man, because they used to be a woman, but, you know,
yeah,
that's about as much. But
gold star, platinum here actually, because I was a cesarean baby, so.
I was not. No, I was not. So that's me, gold star. Ugh, that kind of language, gross. But anyway, it's all fine.
Sorry, Gregg Araki.
I know, but yeah, no. But I think he like has a boyfriend now. But it's one of those things where, you know, yeah, just being able to have this be normalized, and, you know, for as dated as something like the 90s can be or can seem now, I mean, like, yeah, like people are still trying to understand this, and people are still like not completely banging with this stuff anyway. So, you know, it is interesting to think that like Gen Z also like hopefully has been able to take this movie or some of his movies and be able to latch on to them, because you know, people like you and me, like who are millennials, like we kind of got to, but only so much, you know what I mean? Like I didn't get to see these as they came out. I heard about them after the fact, you know. Whereas stuff in the 2000s, more so, it could be like if you connected with it or not. You know, that would be more of our thing, where it's like, but what if I didn't care about Gossip Girl or like whatever the hell else, you know?
I do, just back to the TV thing though, I really wonder how this plays to an audience who did grow up in the digital native generation.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, because like I said, these movies are about giving turning television tropes, this one especially, into something queer, to like giving voice to a queer audience, to giving queer audiences something to connect to, where we didn't have that outside of our immediate communities,
right?
And some people didn't even have that in their immediate communities, right. So just for Zoomers, it's kind of like, oh, the internet's always been there, I've always been able to find gay people, like, you know, TV wasn't my only form of information or entertainment. So I don't know, does this seem completely woefully dated and
maybe that's what the interest is, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Gen Z, please call in. I'll leave the phone number in the show notes or something.
Sound off below.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I also think like, because this is the Teen Apocalypse trilogy that, you know, we're talking about, and this is a part of it, like it is interesting to kind of, you know, end this movie with this idea of isolation and alienation, you know. And I think we notice that a lot more now with just the rise in places that are going out of business and like are just leaving places, like dead malls and stuff, like not having third spaces anymore, you know, that kind of a thing. But also like but yeah, I think these movies, this one especially, there is something to be said with like just the idea of alienation and isolation, and how are these characters, our main character in particular, how is he trying to cope with that and handle it, I guess.
Well,
Which is
also
just
the
interesting.
death of socialization and the
Yeah.
death of, also a more puritanical era because, like,
We're seeing that too now. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
the 90s, this came out when there was more of a treatment for HIV,
Mhm.
whereas Totally Fucked Up and the Doom Generation came up a little earlier. But it's like
Right.
to have sex, to be able to have sex and to have safe sex with who you wanted to have sex with was like a revolutionary act, was still
Yeah.
considered a revolutionary act. Like that's why this movie is so focused on fucking and being able to free to be able to have sex with who you want to have sex with. That is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And we are in a much more sex negative time where it's like, why,
Yeah.
especially younger generations are like, they don't like movies with sex.
Mhm.
And, that's also from growing up with easy access to porn. So it's kind of
Right.
like, but when this was coming out, like Queer as Folk, I always talk about was like so massive to me, as
Right.
insane as that show was. Like I was like,
Right.
gay people having sex, like being able to express romance with each other. Like
Mhm.
I'm not saying Queer as Folk is a perfect text or like one
No,
that
but it's a very
we should
important
return to.
one.
Yes, it absolutely was for me as a young person coming of age. And also, like, this is about a party. This is about like young people getting together, spending time with each
Yeah,
other.
totally.
Post-pandemic, especially, like you read articles now about how young people, their entire social life is on their phone. And
Mhm.
I even have that as an older person, right? Like
Right.
you and I are connected over the phone. I've never met you
Exactly.
in person.
Because we don't live in the same area at all. We would never see each other.
But that's kind of, I mean, I'm making more friends now in Austin. That takes a while. We've lived here a few years, but I would
Yeah.
say that most of my friends are people I've met over
Yep.
the internet.
One of your
who I've
good
never-
friends. Yeah, one of your good friends lives over not in Baltimore, but she lives in well, she's gonna be moving to New York, but Tori.
Yeah,
Like, you
Tori.
know,
Tori
yeah, so but
Potenza.
like right, but you like it's not like you can see whatever you want, or anybody
Yeah.
like that really. And that's what's cool about just like having technology and having the ability to, get to know people or get to connect with them in some way.
But
Yeah.
the opposite of that is watching something like this. It's like, man, I
Yeah.
really missed out on that. Like,
Yeah.
just spending all day with your friends, having a place to end up at the end of the day where you're all going to get fucked up, hook up with somebody.
Right, right.
There's no parents around. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think this movie is very reflective, like you said, sort of that
Right.
sense of alienation and isolation.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, look at what we've lost.
Yeah, no, it is like that, and it really is like, it's the Anna from Freaky Friday of it all, where she's like, oh, you're ruining my life, like, whatever. But that angst that kids have, or that teens have, especially, I mean, that is why this is an apocalypse, because. Yeah, Gregg Araki is telling stories, especially with this trilogy and with this movie, where we're to assume that these are like young people. We're to assume that these are like, like young adults. I guess they're supposed to be college, obviously, but like, you're seeing this as like they're supposed to be young people, but they're being also played by people who aren't necessarily like the same age as what they are. They're a few years older than that. So, which obviously was happening on like 90210 and shit too, which is why it kind of works, because you have something like Tori Spelling, who I think was probably the youngest there, if not her or Tiffany Amber, I think. One of the two, like, I don't remember, but it's a matter of like, it's a matter of, I lost my train of thought there.
You're good.
But like, it's just to see that, like, but I think that's why this movie, especially, like, there's the end of the world kind of theme, if anything. But that's because, like, we're supposed to assume that these are younger people, or that this is like, kind of like, it's a young, like, landscape, I guess. It's supposed to be that. And it makes enough sense. And then also too, like, the flippantness of some of the like stuff in this movie too, like some of these like sudden disappearances from people or deaths. It's just like, they do have this sort of like flippant thing, like, and I think that's also commenting on like how, especially in this time, and Gregg's also coming from a time where, he was born while Vietnam was happening. So he would have been exposed to that in some way, and being able to just be desensitized to our media. And even by the 90s, like, you know, people are nowadays, when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, no, people are so desensitized that it's almost scary. But that's always kind of been a constant, is that it's like, are people being desensitized to violence because of violence on TV or violence in video games or like whatever? And it's like, that's always been something, because it's always like, there's always new shit happening. It's hard not to get desensitized to it, because you have to listen to it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, that's exactly why I don't have my own like social medias. You know, that's kind of exactly why I don't really keep myself up to date on every single news organization. And people could say whatever they want about that, but like, also I am as informed as I want to be, but you'll go fucking crazy if you watch the news all the time, and it'll go, I don't know, you have to be able to pull yourself away from just how awful it can be. And even the 90s was showing that too, but like, we're still seeing that even today, you know?
And that's a real interesting difference between this movie and now also, is it's kind of like, you know, TV was always called the boob tube. There's that guy wearing a hat that says kill your TV in this. Like, TV is like the opiate of the masses, you know? Like, you know, and they even talk in the language of TV. Like, one of them says, Ryan Phillippe says yabba dabba doo when Heather is going down. And then Mina Suvari calls, what's his name, Zero?
Yeah, Zero. Yeah,
he calls him Huggy Bear. But now, like, we're also connected all the time.
Yeah,
and we are doom scrolling constantly. Doom scrolling is our opiate at this point.
Yes.
And I think that's fascinating. Also, just the way like classes are named in this, like they mentioned thermonuclear catastrophes class.
Exactly.
Can you help me with my history of lethal epidemics midterm? You know, there's obviously, you know, Dark says I'm only 18 years old and I'm totally doomed. And there is there's a youthful dramaticness to that. But by the same token, I think it does speak to where we are and resonate with where we are now. It's like, I don't care about fitting into your society, because your society is shit, and it's not going to be around much longer, you know, so might as well we've got to have as much fun as possible.
Right.
You know, it's like why our generation is not having children, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's just something where it's like
scary.
It's too scary. It's too unpredictable.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you feel bad bringing them into that. And and it's always felt like that for a while, you know, where it's like the 2000s was like, oh my God, like what the fuck's going on here? You know, that kind of thing. And it didn't just go away, you know? And it's cool that there wasn't this sort of thing of like, you know, oh, look at how progressive we can be. Like, this was still transgressive in 1997 for this to come out, you know? And that's exactly why, obviously, like, Gregg Araki has never been really that focused on trying to make money in terms of his films. Like, he doesn't do that like at all, really. I mean, he makes his own money doing whatever the hell and just working and stuff. But, you know, it's one of those things where he didn't get into it to be a rich man. Because none of his movies, similar to John Waters got, if I ventured to say, and I love you, John Waters, you got your bag from doing Hairspray and having the rights to it.
Yeah,
obviously.
Definitely.
You know, but like, he was never that focused either on making movies that made big box office. Even David Lynch to a point, right, too. Like, a lot of these people that obviously Gregg is influenced by, but like, yeah, like Lynch is obviously, and Waters as well, you know, too, like they're acclaimed directors, but they were never that focused on trying to make a big box office.
Yeah.
If it happened, it happened. And if it didn't, it didn't.
Well, yeah, you know? Because it's art outside the mainstream.
And some of these people who now do it, the Michael Bays of the world, and the Chris Columbuses, who unfortunately, a lot of the stuff is bland.
You hate Chris Columbus. You're like, fuck you, Chris Columbus.
I don't know. Like, he just, there is something to it where it's like, I don't know.
You want to know what's even worse now, though? Like, I have respect for those two men. The worst thing now is that we are the Marvel machine
True.
just snaps up talent now. Like Chloe Zhao won her Oscar and then went on to do the Eternals, and it's like you've had no time to like cook, no time to actually like figure out what your own cinematic voice is. You're just getting sucked up into this corporatized thing, you know.
Yeah, no, that's very fair.
So we don't
totally
have, so now if a Gregg Araki made a Doom Generation, he would be directing, you know, the Candyman reboot or something.
Yeah.
Like
no, totally. It is
and then
so
we
weird
would
to
not
think.
get any of this stuff. You know, we would get a movie that people really vibe with, and then like we would get a bunch of garbage. So
Yeah, no, and that's so fair, and I don't know, there's just a difference between them. Not that I like hate Chris Columbus or anything, but I do think like his
I don't know,
stuff
you
is.
dinged him twice in this episode.
I don't know,
So-
like when somebody has like, criticized him before, I remember listening to an episode where they did the Rent movie, and here's the thing about the Rent movie. Listen, that was very important to me when I was like 13.
Same.
But also when I can look at it now and just be like, yeah, this movie could have been better. Like it really could have been. Yeah, and yeah,
Gregg
there's that.
Araki is like the cure to the Rent movie.
Oh yeah, completely.
Like,
but to be honest, because that's the thing is that Chris Columbus didn't do the best job on that movie. It's not that it's terrible, but it's just also like, I don't know. Should this have even happened as a film, you know, and whatever. I don't hate the Rent movie like that, but I definitely understand its kind of flaws because also when it was shot and made.
Yeah.
And also just like not even going into the whole like older people playing other people, like younger people, because that's obviously been a thing, but just like the thing of it just came out 10 years too late. That's all.
Well, also something, first of all, Rent in general being something that the culture was ready to take on and assimilate. So that's Rent is a musical that the characters in Gregg Araki movies would hate.
Oh, totally.
Because it's packaging queerness for a straight audience. Still love Rent, not saying anything. Jonathan Larson, R.I.P.
Right, no, you actually had some talent. You had some talent, whereas it's like
but
when
then
they made the movie
itself is like something was slightly edgy with even more edges sand off.
Exactly.
So
that's true too. It's like a thing of it's interesting.
But I will say, I was thinking when you said earlier, because you said James Duval is like his muse.
Yeah.
So obviously these movies are very cynical and biting and
nihilistic,
but they're still also very sweet. And I think James Duval is the perfect vehicle for it because he just plays this like adorable,
lovable
hang dog. Yes, lovable idiot, especially in Doom Generation. That's my favorite of his. But he's the perfect vehicle for this because you can't help but love him and like want him to get what he wants.
No, totally, absolutely. Side tangent for a bit. Not anything too crazy. I think that James Duval as a person can be in the Himbo Hall of Fame. Okay.
Yes.
And I will also mention Chris Klein from Election should also be in there too. If you had to add people to the Himbo Hall of Fame that we're building, who would you add on there to their Rocco?
Fuck. You're really putting me on the spot with this one.
You have any favorite himbos out here?
I have to think.
Because that's what Jordan kind of is in this. I mean, he is very much like the puppy dog boyfriend of Mel.
Yeah.
And whatever. But yeah, no, he is this kind of lovable himbo though that I'm just like, he just wants somebody to hug him.
Yeah, he's perfect. I can't. I'm drawing a blank on himbos. I do think Ryan Quanten in True Blood is like the ultimate himbo.
Okay, well, he can go in there then too. Well, as you think about them, just shout them out if you want to.
Okay, I will.
Like also, I think I could put Bill and Ted in there separately or together.
Oh yeah, sure.
That too. It'd be fun. I don't know. But yeah. Do you have any obviously the soundtrack of this movie, the visual elements and also like the soundtrack as well, are just what is the centerpiece of this movie, especially when you can see it in 4K and stuff like that. It's really cool. But I guess if anything, do you have any sort of like with the music of this? Do you have anything to say about the music of it? Is there anything outstanding in it that you think of? And yeah, what are some of your like favorite tracks of this? Little
So
thing?
music is my big blind spot,
Oh
unfortunately. So
no!
like you're really hitting me where I'm weak in my weak spot. I just, my family, my dad and sister will always like humiliate me because like we went and saw the Rolling Stones, which they were really excited about in Boston, but I was like
Right.
more excited about the aquarium. Um, like they always say that. Uh, I'm just not a big music guy, but I do appreciate his like love of shoegaze,
Yes.
which I always associate with him more than whatever shoegaze is on its own. Like
Right. Right. Right.
Mysterious Skin, the shoegaze score of that is so like it sticks with me and haunts me to this day.
Yes. Yes.
So I think it's cool. I love the vibes that he's giving. It's definitely a punk rock sort of flavor. But yeah, I wish I knew more about the music itself. Needless to
Understood.
say.
Yeah. No, it makes enough sense. And I think like that's why he probably just handpicked a lot of this stuff and, was just trying, which I think also just added to why this wasn't very accessible for a while because of the music. And that makes enough sense to me, I guess. But yeah. Okay.
But it
If
adds to the
anything,
party
yeah,
atmosphere of what it is,
I
like
agree.
you have all these great people, familiar faces, new, interesting, fresh faces,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like a mixtape of songs that he's choosing. So there's nothing
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, no, totally. I also think like, talking about talking about the aesthetics of this movie and just how poppy and color of it is and everything like that. I also feel like, yeah, like as we were talking about, like this is supposed to be kind of this like parody or satire of like this sort of prime time like a teen drama, if anything, right? And it's just like that's what this whole movie kind of is, and why the stories are kind of the way they are, and it's just like flipped on its head.
It's 1960s like sci-fi as well, though. Like
Yeah.
the rubber monster is straight out of Star Trek.
Totally. And then also like when Egg is running home after she gets assaulted,
Mhm.
that is also very like body snatchers, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers to me.
Yeah.
I
love that everyone's room is an art installation, essentially.
Yeah, it is.
Like
Yeah.
Egg's room with all the flowers and stuff. It's
Mhm.
great. Like, God, I love the backdrops outside the windows.
Yeah.
That, like,
It's like House.
Yeah, yeah, and like they kind of shakes on occasion when people pass by them and they leave that shit in there.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love I love things that are trying to find truth in a sort of false aesthetic.
Yeah. Totally. And it's funny because this comes out in 97. I think it was shot in 95, comes out in 97. And then what happens next year is that literally Dawson's Creek starts. And it's like, then you have like, yeah, you have this stuff of like, this is just like even more melodramatic. And then that would go on to then influence other things. So it's really interesting in this situation. That's, I think, why Gregg has done such an interesting job with the Teen Apocalypse trilogy, because it really is like kind of three different, I guess, like, viewpoints of what it was like to be kind of a teen in the 90s, or what he thought it was, at least. But it's a weird amalgamation of both the 90s teen experience, but also like somebody who obviously grew of age in like the 70s and stuff like that,
Yeah,
So
and of course that's all from television as well, because up till you're starting to see movies replaying on television.
Yeah, totally.
So you have a real cinephile generation coming up.
Yeah.
And these are after sort of like your George Lucases and the new Hollywood, but it's sort of a similar thing where it's like these are people who know movies and want to play with the iconography of movies in their own directorial way. This is very similar also. This one always reminds me of Todd Haynes' Poison.
I haven't seen it. It's on the list though. Watch.
Definitely check it out, because it's like vignettes, but one of them is like a
right.
1950s sci-fi bio horror sort of thing.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So yeah, it's very similar to this, where it's like, fake backgrounds and, aliens, and it's just playing with that stuff.
Hell yeah. Love that. And yeah, I also think like Yeah, and it's cool to see this cast too, because it's like I think some of them definitely understood the assignment of what they're doing, you know. It's intentional, obviously, because they were probably already friends or dating or whatever at the time. But like having Kathleen Robinson in here is such a deliberate choice to make, which I think is cool. And it's, you know, and being able to make this kind of this weird sort of soapy after school special thing. Like I'm still wondering about why exactly did we need the assault on Egg to happen, but it was also like a thing of, I mean, well, Showgirls did it, and they're like, why did that happen? Like, why do we put these weird or these scenes of assault or scenes of something to prove what point, I guess I always took it as like, because I watched it like twice now, or a couple different times just for the pod, but in this situation, like it's a thing of it's to crack the egg of innocence, I guess. That's kind of what it was to me. And like, you know, and the other thing too is that also with like Gregg being a very Californian man and, you know, like live and die in it. But like I think it's also a thing of like, don't meet your people you idolize because you don't know what's going to happen, like, you know, and all that. And I think not that I've lived in LA or anything like that, or did any of that, but I also think it's one of those things where when you live in a place like that, or maybe New York, where you may honestly see a celebrity here or there, if you're just like in the world, like it's very much a thing of you almost get desensitized to it. Talk about desensitization, but like, you know, and in that situation, like it almost is like, but when you turn it into like, no, but I want to meet this person so bad, and they, you know, we can get into stan culture and all that kind of stuff. But like, this is also just showing like, maybe you shouldn't meet your idols because they might just assault you, I guess, because
they also
break your innocence.
That scene, and of course the killing with the soup can at the end.
Yeah.
Those are definitely, they feel like real holdovers from like
Doom Generation,
but also Living End is a lot more confrontational than this movie is.
Right.
But those things are not there. Like,
I agree.
Doom Generation, there's an inherent threat throughout. I mean, it starts violently, it ends extremely violently.
Right.
But this, it's kind of like those things are interruptions in a world that seems pretty like not a bit more non-threatening and silly. But I think that's also maybe commentary on the teen thing, the teen drama thing. Like nothing truly terrible can happen on television, but this is not television.
But this is not, and that's where we're going a little further with it.
Yeah,
totally. No, I can definitely see that. Like, and I also think like, yeah, this movie is just so, if anything, it's just so fascinating to look, and I think it's interesting, especially with like John Waters has Baltimore as kind of a character of his movies, which is why I'm interested to see. I don't know if I'll actually see it or not, but I want to see that guy who did the Baltimoreans, and because I know he's from Maryland and Baltimore, so I'm kind of like wondering, like, but like how some movies have the place as a character, but like I said, in John Waters movies, like Baltimore is its own character kind of a thing. And I think in a lot of Gregg Araki's movies, like this sort of dystopian LA is like what that is for them, which is why I think you can talk about things like, you know, you have these like random different TV stars that pop up in the movie, or also just being desensitized to like seeing people out and seeing it, whereas somebody in the Midwest or something is just like, oh my God, if only I could be in a place like there, or if only I can like get out of my small town and do this, you know. It's just like
that element is really interesting, because Nathan Lee in the essay included with Criterion sort of talks about how he points out how like people always have said like like the weather in LA is apocalyptic. LA itself is apocalyptic. And you just speaking about the Midwest, it's like it's a place without roots. Figuratively, like obviously there are roots. There were people that moved there early on in the filmmaking centuries, but it feels like a place with people just waiting for something. like in a holding pattern for their fame. Like, and even Jordan Ladd talks about like the big one, the big earthquake coming and like destroying California. So there is this idea. He's a very LA filmmaker. There's this idea that LA is a place sort of adrift. That same essay, like that same essay, Nathan Lee says, like when the characters in these movies say that they're going nowhere, they mean LA.
Yeah.
So
because they say like in this movie, like LA is like nowhere. Everyone here is lost. And I think, you know, that is something to be kind of said, because that's the thing, is that it's a place that's made up of transplants. I would also argue that like New York City is like that too. Like it's just one of these places where people are going there normally to fulfill a dream that they want so bad, because otherwise they'll have to go back to their small town they came from.
New York is interesting though, because
you know?
Yes, it is very cosmopolitan and like full of transplants, but also Chloe Sevigny, I remember her saying in an interview that she loves living in New York and never wanted to live in LA because she never wanted to live in a city that was entirely based around her job.
Yeah, that's the thing too.
New York is full of so much other stuff. It's a financial center. It's everything, and not that California isn't, but LA is a weird place. Yeah, unlike anywhere else.
It's a lot more. I've always said, and again, LA listeners, we love you so much, and it's not a shit, but you have to talk about it because it's in the movie. Like it's just there. Like LA to me is always a little bit more woo-woo than anything on the East Coast could be. And I don't know about you, because you're in the middle of the country, like you're in Texas, so that's its own country right there. Like pretty much. But like I don't know if it's as woo-woo in New York or something, like New York City especially. Like it's
I don't think so.
I don't
a little
think
more grounded.
A little more grounded. Like it's just and by woo-woo I mean like there isn't always like not saying it's not that it's not liberal, because you know, obviously there's conservative people in California, and then also like there are you know, things in New York that are also, but like the thing is like with that though, it's just interesting to kind of to see like how that is. Again, whether my train of thought was going anywhere with that, but like you said, like, you know, it's not just this one thing, whereas unfortunately a place like LA is just known, it used to be known as the hub, and now it's just like, well actually it's just where all the studios are, I guess, and it's where I've built my home base. But
also LA isn't like this anymore either. Like we talked a little bit about film industry changes, and it's like more movies are made elsewhere than ever before. And,
and it has to be, because it's also just like it's too expensive to shoot there. It's too and it's just like that's why movies like this, like it just won't ever, if they ever tried to make something like this, I don't even think you can make a Gregg Araki movie like that unless it's just from him and he can know how to do it. Like but in terms of it being influenced from there, it's like you almost can't, in a way, because
and now here's where I get on my soapbox about fucking I Know What You Did Last Summer, because
go ahead, go off, sis.
Just because, listen, you were talking about Baltimore, I live in Texas, we're talking about LA, all of these places have their own flavor,
flavor and style.
They're characters in and of themselves when you shoot them right and you like find places like. And I Know What You Did Last Summer drove me fucking crazy, because the one thing that original movie had going for it was its North Carolina shooting location. That did so much for what that movie is. That to do it in Australia and LA as it was, like doubling, like masquerading as North Carolina, I was like, this, you lost the flavor. It's not there anymore. Like, this is so insipid. And that's kind of what the problem is all over the place. Like every movie is not filmed on movies aren't filmed on location anymore. And it's a shame.
It is, and it's just hard to sometimes do that, and you have to sometimes not even stay in the US to do it. You go to a place like Canada, go to fucking Croatia or Bulgaria.
Bulgaria. I think the new Toxic Avenger was filmed in Bulgaria.
Right. It's just like, okay, like it's just insane.
Was New Jersey not good enough for Trauma? What the fuck?
Damn.
That was the point.
Wow, damn. How dare you? Right in front of his face. Can't do it. But yeah, no, totally. And I think like LA is its own character. It's in the not so distant future. It's in that kind of Yeah, it's just interesting to kind of look at that and to see what that would be, I guess. And yeah, I also think like this movie in a way, like I think the thing about any of his movies that he's done is just that they are in this sort of situation where really, I don't know, like he's been able to do in his filmography, I guess, like he has been able to do something where you have after this a movie like Mysterious Skin, which in different hands I think could have really gotten critical acclaim, in my opinion, but then yeah, he's always kind of been this sort of journeyman director person. I feel like he's not really wanted to be in the studio. And I think to talk about, just how the film industry has changed and how the kind of geography around that has changed as well. It's interesting to see that, Gregg has always just kind of been about like, I'm doing the indie filmmaking thing and that's what I'm going to do. I've never been scooped up. Unfortunately, I've never been scooped up to do something where they throw a bunch of money at me. They're just like, hey, you can do this. And I think you can do it good and on time, I guess.
I guess working with Ryan Murphy is probably a pretty solid gig.
I would think so too, right?
Where do you land on Mysterious Skin though?
Where do I land on it? It's my favorite of his. And the reason for that is because I love how this movie, or how that movie in particular, it's a heartbreaking movie about something that is so horrible and disgusting, but you also have such empathy for these characters and you have this sort of just heartbreak in the end. And all of them also just, not that they're all tragic or anything, but like, even having like the two that were in there with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Brady Corbett, or Corbet, however you want to say it.
Fucking Corbet, yeah. What a surprise that was.
I know, but in the situation, like they both did their job. But even having like Michelle Trachtenberg, rest in peace, she's also doing some stuff there too, where all of these kids are just wanting to get out of their small town, and that's what it is. And it's interesting because that's the first time we saw him do that, like really, because all of his people have always been in LA. In any of his other movies he's done, it's very much that landscape. And even though I think they did shoot some stuff in LA for there, obviously, because again, that's his home base, so it makes enough sense to, but like that movie was kind of an example of being able to go outside of a major city like that and to kind of show like this is kind of reality for people, especially when they live in a place where, it might be a little bit more redneck, quote unquote, a little bit more conservative. And that's why movies like this were just really important for people to see and to have in some way. And that was, that's what I think the whole kind of like legacy of this movie has been, is that this was something that was taken in by the fans of it and who loved it and who kind of passed it down as sort of a like, like a kind of stepping stool for somebody coming up in the community of like, you know what, you need to watch these Gregg Araki movies because they were doing this shit in the 90s too, bitch. You know what I mean? Like, and I think for people who are in places where they feel isolated or alone or any of this stuff, it's a matter of like, you're able to watch these films and you're able to watch other films within the new queer cinema movement, maybe, or just from people who are outside of the system and outside of the studio system, especially, which is interesting because I mean the studio system does still exist in a way, but not to the same degree. Maybe it was also because I was watching stuff about Sunset Boulevard yesterday, but it was also like, yeah, it's this thing of that's kind of going away, and but if anything, like the studio system we have though is really more. Again, don't really know where I was going with that, but there's something to be said for it. Yeah. but the legacy that this has had is that it's okay that you're in this small town and you want to get out of it, and we understand it. Here are some movies that you can kind of use to satiate that. And be hopefully able to get what you want.
Mysterious Skin is probably my favorite as well, and I think as a teenager, I was mostly just in love with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which
Yeah,
I also
understood.
love that he said that nobody ever called him sexy before Gregg Araki, and I think that's just so empowering and cool that
I like that too.
he put him in that movie and was like, "I'm gonna make you, you're gonna be sexy,
Yeah,
and you're gonna
totally.
feel sexy." But
Yeah.
watching it now, I think I appreciate it much more than I ever did, and I especially after watching these, it's kind of like.
Yeah.
It's not his part of his teen apocalypse trilogy, but it's kind of, in my opinion, his most apocalyptic movie.
It is.
At least on a personal level, like it's a personal apocalypse for these characters, and it's kind of like it's almost like the world is already over, and you just need to connect with people in any way you possibly can.
Right. I will also say I think all of my tangents today are also for the fact that I did take a gummy before this recording.
I didn't even know.
But I was also like, maybe that's why I'm just like musing about whatever the fuck.
No, you're fine.
but it's also like, but when you bring that up, it's also just like, yeah, no, that does feel apocalyptic, because like now that I'm just thinking about it in a way, I'm like, oh no, like I think Brian in that movie, like it's very well he could have just gone home and unalived himself after finding that kind of thing out, like, and that like it could have just been something like that, even because what we kind of think of with this is not a Mysterious Skin episode, but even with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, with his character, I think it was more that like he was just going to keep doing it until, I don't know, either somebody beat him up wrong and kills him, or something, because he can't not be gay. He's going to continue being it, but is he going to continue being safe, kind of a thing. So it is like, that is interesting to go look at that
and
movie.
just how limited the scope of the movie is. Like there's so few characters, the areas they occupy are very ill populated, and like New York doesn't feel any different than their hometown. Really doesn't feel better. It almost feels worse. And then just the end of it with it's like a shot of them like in blackness from above, and it's just like the world is gone. All they have is the two of them and the connection they share. It's a devastating movie, and I do think like it kind of feels like a coda to what he first lays out with these three movies.
Because then honestly, like after that, having Kaboom, which is
Kaboom. Kaboom.
I don't like that movie, and I love you, Thomas Dekker. God, I love you so much, Thomas Dekker. But that movie was like so weak, and also it was like Nowhere Light in a way, because that's what it felt like, to be honest.
DTV Nowhere Bull.
Like it just was not in. I wasn't into it. Like that, just I couldn't get into it. And at least, if anything, I haven't actually watched Now Apocalypse. I've only seen the trailer of it and stuff before. But I also like, I don't know, I kind of will give it a little bit more, because I don't know, man. Like perhaps again, Kaboom just wasn't that girl for me. I feel like I would give a chance to Now Apocalypse a little bit more. Maybe I'd have to really actually see how it was, but yeah, that would be my thing about it. But just kind of bland and not interesting. You're better than that.
Like, pretty good Juno Temple though.
That's true. It's very true. And then she became like, and that was like literally one of her first movies. Like it was earlier in her career, I think. And then having like, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know anything about who the hell that even is, but I know she's been in like, she's had her moment of like people really knowing who Juno Temple is, right? Like
I'm not sure really. I think she's a bit of a failure to launch situation.
Really?
Maybe.
I thought she was in one of those like Yellowstone or like 1409 shows or something.
She might be, but Juno Temple fans, sound off.
Yeah, please do. I'm not talking shit about her because I hardly even know who she is, but like I just was like in that movie, I was just kind of like, okay, like what are we doing? Like what's happening here? Do you want to fuck the guy or not? Like I'm just confused. Like, do you want to fuck your roommate or no? Like what's happening? But yeah, no, I think this movie, like if anything, some of the critics that we've had for this, like the LA Times, of course, gave it like a positive review because they're saying like Gregg Araki is like a marvel at being able to control these like shifting tones, like these diametrically opposing tones. And yeah, I also like how the New York Times even called this the California version of Kids. And to be honest, like I'm not that mad at that. I kind of get it. Like, you know,
Well, yeah,
I think
Kids is very grounded. This is very like elevated
out
and
of
crazy.
nowhere,
And that makes sense for New York versus LA.
Totally, yeah. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where, you know, I think this was obviously never going to have any sort of a claim to it, really. But I really think that if anything, people were able to start finding it in our time of like the 2000s when we were growing up, you know, seeing that, being able to digest it. And I think also being able to then give it to other people who came from after them too. But yeah, I do think like this is why I think especially once Tumblr became a thing and then you could like share these gifs of different movies or whatever.
Yeah.
And being able to be like, aren't I just so deep or like whatever the hell? But there were certain movies that did that, similar to something like The Virgin Suicides or like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or something. But then some of the other things that came about were also like seeing some of these queer movies, Nowhere, Doom Generation getting kind of play. And I think that's how then people who are part of Gen Z could then see this, because if you were still people our age who were actively on Tumblr at like 20 something years old, I think could also see these movies, and then people in the generation after could then also see them too and be like, well, the colors are really cool,
Well,
or
yeah,
like this person's really hot, or like whatever.
They have such strong visual signatures and they're so visually strong. And
Yeah.
I even think like, you know, these are not necessarily mainstream movies, but I just think there's such a lack of this kind of stylization in movies in general that it's so night and day compared to what's coming out now.
That's true. That's very true. It's one of those things. Yeah, I can understand that for sure. And it's just something to see that like this movie has. It's interesting when you said like the reason this is kind of coming back is not just because like these are movies that should have been seen, obviously, and now that we are in a situation where even though it's we're rolling stuff back, as you know, our government's rolling things back, but it's also just like being able to show like we've always been here as queer people, we've always been here as people who are not white, you know, and we've been able to do this. And this seems like a weird time, but like here's us putting this thing out to people who are kind of fans of art films and shit like that, and art house movies and stuff, but people who also have certain tastes of like, oh yeah, I'd want to see the Gregg Araki trilogy that he did. I want to see that immortalized because, you know, it was important to see, or it should be more accepted, or it should be more widely available than it is right now. Because again, we're now having to get back into the thing about like how nowadays, until the foreseeable future or the foreseeable end of the future, I don't know, but it's very to see like, you know, we do have to get back to partly that, depending on who you are, I guess, like you have to get back to the queer as in fuck you sort of thing, because if you don't you have to be that much more.
Yeah, as cynical as these movies are, they're very heartening for me, just because, you know, we all as gay people and queer people deal with that thing where we're kind of like, well, I'm just gonna like try and fit in and not be too much. And even if we love ourselves, even if we practice loving ourselves every day, we're going to be like, well, I'm going to try to be as palatable as possible. Yeah. It's a personal thing you have to navigate. But, you know, 2015, some gay people even, like a lot of queer people decided, you know, the fight is over. Marriage equality is here. You know, we don't need to try any harder and keep going. And, you know, we're seeing the snapback happen right now. And we're reminded that we'll never be what a certain type of person wants us to be. We'll never be good enough or acceptable enough. So these movies are an excellent reminder to just say, fuck you. And be your gay self, like as flamboyant as possible, because as they always say, it's better to stand out than fit in. As rote as that is.
It is. And I also just think like, you know, it's just that much more like it's to be not in your face, like I'm trying to put it in you, but it's just like it's more like I don't care whether you like it or not. I'm still going to be me, kind of a thing. And I'm not really caring whether or not I'm palatable to you or not. So it doesn't matter. And that's almost like how you have to sort of, I don't know, like it hasn't gotten better really. And there is the ability to be able to have peace with people or tolerate people has obviously gone out the window because people don't want to tolerate people of color in their communities and they just want to be racist as shit and whatever. Like, it's just, at this point, it's almost just like a thing of, all right, well, you know what? I'm just going to do my thing and you could just learn how to be a better person, I guess. Like, you just have to because it's kind of gone out the window. And I don't think we can just blame like a big global pandemic, on it, or just like the rise in technology or whatever. Like, it's also just like there's more to it too, that there's greed there's money, there's all the things, that makes the world go round. So it's just like, it's always kind of been shit, but it's a matter of like, how do you want your shit to, how can you dress up your shit, I guess? Like, how can you like decorate it and make it something that at least is, is palatable to you and is comfortable to you, even though it may not be to other people. Yeah. And I think also like that's why movies like this, within the new queer cinema, like, movement, or even ones that came after that movement kind of then, started and then kind of, had that. But I think that's why this movie in particular, but also just Gregg Araki's movies in general and movies like his, like, the reason that they have this cult following, the reason that they have like this sort of like following and why it still matters is that these themes are always kind of going to be around. I feel like that's something that as I do this podcast, like I find that like it's always kind of been this way, and we've always had to be able to try to react to what's happening with any of these movies I've covered, because at the end of the day, some of these movies are just ones that people really just wanted to make and they ended up getting it made. And I think that's what Gregg has always kind of done, is that whether he was shooting on, the cheapest of cheap, right? Or even when he got to a point where you can have a movie like Nowhere that feels pretty big and feels like, to be able to go from what he was doing to what he could end up doing, like it's still really cool, and he gets to do what he loves. And I think also like the fact that I think we're so overstimulated now, really. There's so much stuff to take in the social media age, but it really is like, in a way, because we live in the age of social media, that's what also makes people sometimes feel more isolated and alienated. And that's why these movies still kind of, persevere and exist, is because like it's always felt like, an apocalypse. It's always felt like the end of the world now, but now it really feels like that more so rather than what was happening in 97. You know what I mean? Because there's always some crazy event that comes up that is just changing fucking everything. And I'm just like, God damn, like, we're not going to have peace. Doesn't exist somewhere. It just doesn't. Like,
and I also didn't stress. I didn't stress this earlier, but like, the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
What gay people went through in the US was an apocalypse for them.
It was horrid, right?
There's a sense of still being able to survive and thrive and party in these movies that I think is really important.
I think is really important. And then also like, but it's so cool. It's cool to see that like there have been advances to where like I myself can be on something like PrEP and know that like I am able to protect myself and to protect other people too, or really protect myself. I mean, that's what you use it for. But like the thing is like, even to think that like within my life or within people's lifetimes that I know and not very distant history, that it was a miracle that you could have something that would help you protect against a virus like this.
Yeah.
And it's just so it's such a slap in the face, I feel like, especially sometimes with younger folks, maybe, where it's like, don't take for granted what you now have. You should be very lucky that you are able to have such access to, resources and to condoms and medications that can help you and stuff like this, because this was not always a thing. And it decimated a community that nobody seemed to care about, that mattered. You know, you have the people who could rally around the gay community and could understand that like they're just people and they're doing this, and then you had the people in power that we're still seeing now. It's not a not to be, it's not a conspiracy, but it doesn't surprise me that like having someone like Trump in office, I'm just like, yeah, he was a fucking kingpin in the fucking 70s and 80s in New York. Are you that fucking surprised?
Absolutely.
Like it's that kind of a thing, and I think that's why these movies have that sort of thing, because it always feels like we're the last generation who will see this, and we will, you know. And that's what it is. That's why this movie still stays. That's why it still hopefully resonates with people, and hopefully new people too, who can pick it up and to see that like it's always kind of been this way. But I think it's all a matter of how you kind of approach it. And the way that Gregg approached it was making it bubblegum pussy pink pop kind of a thing. Try saying that 5 times fast. But like it's very much like this is how I wanted to do it. I wanted to have it that way. And I wanted to have that punk influence there. And that's what the end of our world was looking like. And then in a few years later, the end of the world looks like 9/11 and going to war, you know, and, you know, the end of the world then seemed like it was the recession and all that kind of stuff. And then the end of the world, obviously, it didn't actually end up coming, but like with COVID, like that's a huge example that can be studied upon. So it's being able to know like how you want to kind of decorate your own life and how you want to be able to curate it. Doesn't mean that you want to be willfully ignorant, but I also feel like you have to be able to do that. Yes, keep yourself engaged. Yes, keep yourself aware of things in the news and be able to do what you can do. But also you need to be able to curate a life where you're not just inundated with bad news all the time, and you have to be able to let yourself deal with that and, you know, not be so affected by it. Otherwise you're not going to live. You're not going to be able to live a life and get the help that you need and get the medications you need and be able to help that. But
well said.
That's a huge thing. Yeah. So that's why I think this movie and these movies are super important. And that's why I really want young people to also be able to watch them. And I'm so glad that people are able to, you know, and that's really nice. And knowing that
I love my Criterion box set.
I do too. And it's just important that I want people to continue making cool art. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but like it is a thing of like, that's why it's just more interesting when you can see stuff that isn't always just made by a big studio, you know, and being able to see genres out there like, you know, seeing what A24 puts out there and seeing the kind of stories they can, or Neon, or seeing the horror genre. And that's for me why I kind of get interested in just sticking to the horror of it all or sticking to the indies of it all, because what am I going to do with a fucking Marvel movie, man? Like, what do I care? Like, you know,
you're not excited about Fantastic Four First Steps?
I think I'm good. Like it's fine. And then it just feels after a while, I feel like it just feels toothless and it feels not interesting. And I think that's a big criticism with something like Marvel, is that it is, or any of these places really, but that it's just toothless and it doesn't have anything to say. And that is kind of the worst thing you could do with any of your art, is that it's toothless and sanded down, you know?
Absolutely.
Which is ironic too, because it's interesting that like Gregg Araki wanted this to actually be a PG-13 movie. Like he really was like, I wanted it, I wanted it to happen, but then I'm like, how would that have happened?
Too much James Duval butt, or just the right amount of James Duval butt.
Honestly, just around the right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's just interesting, but yeah, I think that's what it is. What are your kind of closing thoughts on you know these or this movie in particular with like Nowhere, but also like I guess the Teen Apocalypse trilogy as a whole, I guess?
Yeah, I think we've said it all really, but they're really cool movies, really entertaining movies. Gregg Araki was an artist that, you know, definitely spoke for a generation of people, but has a lot to say for any youth generation. I love these movies. They're entertaining as hell. Nowhere is probably the most entertaining of them. Doom Generation will always be my favorite, just because like the bisexual edging in that movie is insane.
Amazing.
And Jonathan Sage, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm glad I didn't see that as a teenager because I don't think I would have survived. I don't think
you would have either.
I think I would have expired in my room just watching it over and over.
Also, by the way, just I think I mentioned it before, but Jonathan Sheck also is from.
Sheck, sorry, I never.
No, you're fine. It's fine. Jonathan Sheck, married to Christina Applegate at some point. That was lovely. But then also is from Maryland. I used to live right near where he grew up, I think, in that county. So I'm like, that's interesting. Good for you, Jonathan Sheck.
He still looks hot as fuck today if you look him up on socials.
Ooh, see, that was the thing. Somebody told me that he might be secret Republican, which I don't think he is. But I was just like, oh no, girl. Like, we gotta like figure this out.
I got that vibe a little bit, but like also like if he's not being blatant about it, I don't care. I'll still follow. I'll still
That's
do a
understandable.
first follow. I don't mind.
That's fine.
Everyone makes mistakes.
That's true. That's true. And also like I love you, Joe Lynch, and I actually did enjoy Suitable Flesh. He is in that movie with Heather Graham. See, look at that. Like,
good connection. Yes,
good connection. And I think you still get to see him be Zaddy, which I really appreciate, and I like that.
But no, these are amazing, really special movies. His whole filmography is really interesting. Check him out, and I don't know, just don't hide your freak flag. Let your freak flag fly.
Yeah, and it's fine that, you know, if anything, like these are movies that, God, like I just think of like how, ooh, girl, I want Gregg. Okay, listen, I know you're not listening to this episode. Gregg Araki, I need you to go call up Miss Jane Schoenbrunn, and I want to go see what y'all can do together. I don't know. I'd be interested.
I don't think.
I feel like she might be down. I don't know.
think she's fun enough for him. Sorry.
I don't know. I think he could push her out of her comfort zone. Like, let's go.
Maybe. Not a nice on the TV Glow fan, unfortunately, but I'm glad for people who like it.
I don't know. Yeah, I like it though, but I'm just like, no, we could do something a little different. Or maybe you could find like a Jane Schoenbrunn that's not the way that she is, you know, I guess. Like, I don't know. But it's because like, but I see them as like similar stories in a way. Like, you're talking about teen stuff. You're talking about like whatever it is. I think Jane's stuff is just a lot more internal. And a lot more just like being kind of a film nerd who then is like, oops, I guess I'm trans. How do I figure that out? And that's what a lot of theirs is.
The TV connection with this, and I saw the TV Glow is massive. So you're actually really spot on there.
Yeah, it's just interesting, but it's just like the different tastes, honestly. And plus also just the different generations that are happening too. But I mean, I think there is an interview somewhere where you can see Jane talking about some of these movies, and they're kind of being a part of that because how could you not? Go look that up, everybody. I feel like I've seen it where she is being asked about like, especially the Teen Apocalypse trilogy. So maybe you can actually get what her thoughts are.
That might be Criterion Channel. I think
it was Criterion.
I think
Channel.
she.
So you might be able to check that out somewhere. Okay, listen, and I think that's what we can do. So it is interesting, but seeing that someone like a Jane Schoenbrunn who's made a name for herself, like she is indebted to people like Gregg Araki, whether she knows it or not, which I think she does. But
she does. I think she does.
It's just like, you know, and really anybody. I mean, like, you know, say what you will about like Sam Levinson, but like, I mean, he's also indebted to Araki. Like, just a bunch of these different people, like that. It. Just like how he's indebted to John Waters and Ken Russell and like any of these different people, right? But like, you know, it's so cool to then see that he is also somebody who I think people look at and can be like, he's somebody who I really look up to, or I use his influences, or I'm influenced by his films and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's a wrap though on Nowhere and on the Teen Apocalypse trilogy for this week. But Rocco, I want
Rap
to
on
thank you.
humanity.
Yes, and a wrap on humanity at that. But I'm so happy to have had you back on the show, and it's just so nice to be able to see and talk to you. We are working on trying to see if maybe we can do something a little later in the year. I might put it there, but we're going to be doing a different kind of episode where we're not just focusing on one movie. We'll focus on different movies, and we'll be able to do that. So I think it'll make more sense maybe during the Halloween time, perhaps. But we'll see about that. But also I have movies. I have movies to watch as part of that. If you follow my letterbox, you'll have a better idea of what I'm trying to say. But I'm not saying it right now. But anyway, if you want people to follow you, Rocco, where can people follow you and go read your shit and everything? Also, tell us about some of the recent articles you've been able to publish.
Sure. Yeah. So you can always follow me online. I don't really post on Twitter anymore, but I am still on Twitter and Blue Sky at Rocco T. Thompson, as well as Letterboxd and Instagram at Rosemary's_Gaby. Right now it is the Fangoria summer issue. I got to do my first cover story for them, which is really exciting, on Macon Blair's remake of The Toxic Avenger. The cover is a subscriber only cover, but if you pick it up on newsstands, it'll have 28 years later on it, and the story is still in there. So I spoke with Macon Blair and Peter Dinklage about it. Which is really cool. Also, it's funny because I saw Toxic Avenger when it premiered at Fantastic Fest here in 2023. So it's been a long road to actually get it out in front of people. So we talk a bunch about that. It's definitely a really great interview. I also just did my first booklet essay for Second Sight's release of Damien Brugna's When Evil Lurk. I decided to focus on the deaths of children in contemporary horror cinema. And just sort of explore that. So definitely pick that up at Second Sight. It's a really gorgeous release. And then, you can always find my work mostly at Slant, always in Fangoria and in Roomwork magazine. But I write a lot for Slant Online. That's where most of my contemporary movie reviews are going. Just because, I'm a horror fan and horror is my niche, but I like everything. So, and they allow me to publish other stuff, which is great.
Absolutely. And of course, you can follow the show on social media at Cult Cinema Circle on Instagram and Blue Sky, because Twitter's dead. And you can also go on whatever podcatcher of choice you would like to go on, give 5 stars, a 1 to 2 sentence review about what you think of the show and all of that, and go follow me on Letterboxd at Jesse Kremp, I think is what it is. That's what it is. This is all in the show notes, and also Rocco's links will be in the show notes too, be advertising out. And in regards to next week, what are we covering next week? I'm going to tell you right now, everybody, I don't know what I'm covering next week. So who knows? Maybe I'll have to talk to Rocco and see what he wants me to do. I don't know yet, everybody. But with all that, though, it'll be a dare, or it'll be something where I have to just do it. So
something that's 3 hours long.
Oh, Lord,
your
no.
favorite.
A long movie. I'll be like, no. Anyway.
That's podcast canceled forever.
Seriously. It's funny. I have some of the other September episodes thought out, but I don't have the first one thought out, I guess. So that's why I'm not even trying to think of what I did. So it'll be a mystery what's next week. I don't know yet, but we'll see what makes sense. But with all that being said, everybody, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our episode. And I hope you have a good rest of your day whenever you listen to this. Good week, whatever. And I'll catch you on the next one. And take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.